I developed this all-natural, restaurant-style ranch dressing without buttermilk, store-bought mayo, and sour cream, and it is 100% preservative-free. Starting off with the base, I'm adding 2 extra large egg yolks to the food processor, and I'm going to process them on low speed for about 20 seconds. It seems like an extra step, but there's a scientific reason for this. Although most of the protein in eggs are in the whites, there's still just enough in the egg yolks for structure, and that protein will also give the base for our dressing egg structure. What we're doing is stretching those proteins so they can easily wrap around and trap the other 2 ingredients we'll be adding shortly. Think of it like a house of bricks after a massive earthquake. This 1 tablespoon of white wine vinegar I just added is like water for our cement or the egg yolks. We're also going to process it along with the egg yolks for an additional 20 seconds to ensure it's perfectly dissolved and evenly distributed. I chose white wine vinegar because it's less acidic and thus won't overwhelm the other ingredients, but you can substitute it with white distilled vinegar if you prefer a more neutral tasting vinegar. Now that the eggs are fully stretched out and stabilized with the vinegar, I'm going to slowly drizzle in 1 cup of neutral tasting cooking oil. I recommend cooking oil that's neutral tasting because, the same as vinegar, you don't want it to overpower the other ingredients. As you may recall, I did say the protein in the eggs is what will help give the mayo its structure, and while it's true the protein is what holds up the structure, the lecithin in the eggs is what forms the structure itself, as that is what the oil binds with. And you can see that emulsion happening on the screen. The reason you want to slowly drizzle the oil into the processor is so it binds with the lecithin in the form of tiny droplets, giving them enough time to emulsify. Since egg yolks are 50% water and the oil doesn't normally mix with water, we're basically threading the needle with this emulsion. If you were to just dump the oil in there all at once, it would completely overwhelm the egg yolks and fail to emulsify. You also want to keep the processor on low speed because you would otherwise incorporate too much air, which can also cause the emulsion to break. You're then going to transfer the base into a mixing bowl in order to finish making the dressing. If the base is still too oily for your liking, you can process it on low speed for an additional 10 to 20 seconds to firm up the emulsion. I'm also adding 3/4 cup of Greek yogurt, which is my alternative to sour cream. It makes for an overall healthier dressing in a couple ways. For one, Greek yogurt is primarily made up of casein from milk, thus it offers much more protein. But also, sour cream is derived from heavy cream, which has much more fat. Conversely, Greek yogurt only has half the fat of sour cream, which translates to considerably fewer calories consumed. And you're going to gently fold the Greek yogurt together with the emulsion base. You want to avoid a blender or processor for this step because you'll end up with a watery dressing from all of the air that's incorporated. 1/4 cup of whole milk will also help to ensure the dressing isn't too thick, in case you're using it for a salad. And you want to hold off on adding the milk until after the yogurt is blended with the emulsion base in order to neutralize the vinegar. Otherwise, the protein in the milk will curdle and you will end up with lumpy dressing. For the seasonings, we're adding 1 teaspoon of dried dill weed and then 1/2 teaspoon of the following: dried chives, dried mint, dried tarragon, garlic powder, onion powder, and ground black pepper. You also want to add 1/2 teaspoon of iodized salt as well. I accidentally forgot to include that in the video. And this final ingredient, I'm adding for a couple reasons. One, it makes up for the lack of buttermilk, which I excluded from my recipe because the store-bought stuff is always either too watery or way too thick, which will also hurt the final texture of the dressing. But also, this ingredient is sharper and more acidic than its lemon counterpart, and thus it gives the dressing an even tangier flair. The ingredient I added is 1 tablespoon of lime juice. If this happens to be too tangy for your liking, you can neutralize the dressing with about 1/4 teaspoon of sugar. If you would like to see more of these videos, please like, share, and subscribe. Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.